This is Laura Duncan from CSMS. And students, this is the last time that we will be reviewing adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers for the rest of your public school career. So let's get it right this time. Let's look at adding integers first. If it has the same sign, add and keep the sign. We're adding the absolute value of the numbers to keep the same sign. So if we have a positive number plus a positive number, it will result in a positive answer. For example, 4 plus 5 is 9. Positive, positive. Then we have a negative plus a negative. That will result in a negative answer. So negative 4 plus negative 5, you simply add the 4 and the 5, 9, and the answer will be negative. If the signs are different, however, we will subtract. And we'll keep the sign of the greater number. Greater is in quotation marks because it's not the greater value, it is the number with the greatest absolute value. So since we have, in this example, negative 4 plus 5, the signs are different, so we subtract. Subtract how you would normally, 5 minus 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then since the 5 is the greater number, and it has a positive value, then our answer will be positive 1. In the next example, we have 4 plus negative 5. We subtract 5 minus 4, the larger absolute value minus the smaller, but since the 5 is the greater absolute value, the answer will be negative 1. Now let's go on to subtracting integers. To subtract integers, we'll change the signs, sometimes referred to as keep, change, change. Keep means that we'll keep the sign of the first number. Change means that we'll change the subtraction sign to an addition sign. And then change again means that we'll change the sign of the second number to the opposite sign. That means if it's opposite, we'll change a positive number to a negative number. If it's negative, we'll change it to its opposite. The opposite of a negative is a positive number. So in this example, we have a subtraction problem. We keep the first one as it is, so it remains positive 4. We change the sign of a subtraction sign to an addition sign. And lastly, we change the second number to its opposite. Notice by doing this, we make the problem much, much easier. Instead of 4 minus negative 4, now we have 4 plus 4, and it makes it much more easy to evaluate. Once you've done that, you can use the rules for adding. When we get to multiplying integers, it's my favorite because it's easy. If you have the same signs, your answer is going to be positive. So if you have both positive or both negative, the answer will be positive when you're multiplying. For example, negative 5 times negative 5, you multiply the numbers as normal. 5 times 5 is 25. But since they have the same signs, the answer will be positive. However, if you have different signs, the answer will always be negative. So you multiply the numbers. 5 times 5 is 25. However, because there's one positive number and one negative number, the answer will be a negative answer. I want you to notice one more thing. If you have 3 negatives, that will give you a negative answer. However, if you have 4 negatives, that will give you a positive answer. So we can conclude from this that if you have an odd number of negatives in the problems 1, 2, 3, your answer will be negative. If you have an even number, of negatives in a problem and you're multiplying them, then your answer will be positive. Let's look at division next. When dividing integers, if they have the same signs, the answer will be positive, just like in multiplying. If they have different signs, the answer will be negative, just like in multiplying. Let's look at some examples on the next page. Looking at number 1, it's a subtraction problem. So we're going to keep, change, change. That means we keep the first number the way it is. We change the subtraction sign to an addition sign. And then we look at the third number and we change it to its opposite. Right now it's a 6, so we will change it to a -6. Now we have an addition problem. Since we have an addition problem, we'll look and see, are the signs the same or different? Since they're different, we'll subtract. 6 minus 1 is 5. And we keep the sign of the greater absolute value. So since 6 is bigger than 1, we'll keep the sign of a -5. And that is your answer. Go on to number 2. In number 2, we have an addition problem. We use the addition rules. The signs are different, so we subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. Then we'll look for the bigger number. The bigger absolute value is 5, and so the answer will be -2. Go on to number 3. On number 3, we have the subtraction problem, so we keep, change, change. We keep the first number the same. We change this to an addition problem. And finally, we change the second number to its opposite. The opposite of -3 is +3. That makes it a lot easier. Now we use our rules for addition. The signs are the same, so we add and keep the sign. On number 4, we have another subtraction, so we'll keep, change, change. Keep the first number the way it is. Change the subtraction sign to an addition sign. Now look at the second number. It's 11, so we will change that to -11. Now we have an addition problem. For addition problems, we look and see if the signs are the same. The signs are the same, so we add. That would be 14, and we keep the sign. It would be -14. Box your answer. Let's look at number 5. We have number 5, and we're going to use our order of operations because there are 3 numbers. So first we're going to do this part because we're going from left to right because we're dealing with addition and subtraction. And we handle that from left to right. So here we have an addition problem. We look at the signs are the same, so we add and keep the signs. That would be -3. I'm going to bring this part of the problem down. Now this part, we have a keep, change, change. We'll keep the 3 the way it is. We'll change it to a addition sign. And finally, we'll look at the number and we'll change it to its opposite. The opposite of 6 is -6. Now that it's an addition problem, we look and say to ourselves, are the signs the same or different? The signs are the same, so we add 9 and keep the sign, so it will be -9. Try a few on your own. Pause the video at this point. Let's look at some multiplication and division problems. Number 9, we have a multiplication problem. That's what it means when those numbers are squished up next to each other in parentheses. So I like multiplication because it's easy. We multiply as normal. 8 times 5 is 40. Now let's look at the signs. If the signs are the same, the answer is positive. And so we have a positive 40 here. Number 10, we have a division problem. If the signs are the same, the answer is positive. But the signs are different here. I know my answer is going to be negative. Now 81 divided by 9 is 9. So the solution will be -9. Let's have you do the last few on your own. Check number 14 especially. If you didn't get this right, it may be because you didn't use order of operations. Remember, you must do order of operations for division and multiplication from left to right. So remember that going forward. Just a few more problems. Now we get the opportunity to evaluate the expression given these values. So when we're evaluating, that simply means to solve. We want to see you substitute these values into the problem. So we copy the numbers like -5, then we're going to substitute or replace the x with -2. We'll substitute or replace the y with 4. Once you substitute the variables with the number, the variables are gone from the problem. And now we can use our integer rules to solve the problem. We'll go from left to right, so this will do first. -5 times -2. 5 times 2 is 10. Since the signs are the same, the answer is positive. Don't forget to do the rest of the problem. We have a 10 times 4. That makes it easy. 10 times 4 is 40, and we know that it's going to be positive. Look at number 12. On number 12, it's tricky. You have this negative number right here. So it's saying that negative is the opposite of x. Well, let's substitute x. X is -2. I like to use parentheses to substitute numbers. Then you can clearly see the negative and the -2 are separate. The y is 4, so I'll substitute that. Write down divide, and then I'll substitute z. Z is -4. I'll have to use my order of operations, so I'll do division and multiplication from left to right. So I want to first have you evaluate this. A negative, and there's an understood 1 here. -1 times -2 is 2. And since the signs are the same, it will be positive. Then I'll continue with this problem. I want to write it down for you so that you can see it clearly. Again, we're going from left to right with multiplication and division. So 2 times 4 is 8. And finally, 8 divided by -4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And with multiplication and the division, if the signs are different, then the answer is negative. So our solution is -2. Again, with these types of problems, we should be seeing your work in an upside down V because you are showing us all that lovely order of operations work. Let's have you do number 13 on your own. The lesson is yours. Now go practice it with assignment 1-4.